Tanya held up the brown bag and shook it before she sat across from me in the booth. "Jasmine threw in a few extra chocolate chip cookies." She fetched one out of the bag and handed it to me before taking a bite of hers. Mmm. Now that's a good way to start off this lovely day. The sun shined brightly through the windows, spraying the cafe in a happy morning glow. The usual long line of patrons was at the counter, ordering and waiting for their to-goes of espressos, frappuccinos, lattes, and bags full of tasty desserts before heading to work, school, or whatever else they had planned for the day. Possum Gap had a few restaurants. None of them were great, but the cafe was a different story. I lifted my head and peeked around the edge of the high-backed booth where Tanya made herself comfortable, to see who came through the door when it jingled. It was the trio of Randy, Jim, and Murphy from the road crew. Jim saw me and lifted his hand. I returned the gesture. Thankfully, he didn't approach, but instead joined his buddies at the back of the line. The cafe walls were covered in olive green painted shiplap. There were an equal number of round wooden tables and rustic wooden-framed booths that were upholstered with hunter green plastic seats. A shelf full of colorful mugs of every size and shape imaginable decorated one wall, and across from it was a bay of windows facing Main Street. Beside the counter, you could watch the staff brewing coffee and baking desserts. The gooey cinnamon buns were my favorite, but the chocolate chip cookies were a close second. Next to the register was a glass case displaying the other fancy pastries that Monica and her wife Jasmine created daily. The two opened the shop 3 years ago and added Wi-Fi the previous year. The cafe had quickly become the only hip establishment around. It was the first stop of the day for almost everyone, from teenagers and professionals heading off to school and work, to hunters before hitting the woods.